Hey guys, it's Dr. Justin Marcagiani. I'm with Evan Brand today. We are so excited to be back and at you with a live podcast. We're going to be chatting about stress and overwhelm, how to deal with it. What's the functional medicine approach? Evan, what's cooking, man? How you been?
Oh, really good, man. The first thing, let me make sure my camera looks good. The first thing is like people run to alcohol in modern society. It's
Yep.
socially acceptable to run to the liquor store, even as a soccer mom, and go buy enough alcohol to just kill your whole family. And nobody bats an eye. And
hmm
that's like our coping mechanism, not
hmm
just as Americans, but other societies too. So I'm hoping today, everything people have been through, overwhelm is huge, man. A lot of people are burned out. A lot of people are frazzled. The stress response
hmm
is broken. Their fuses are short. Their nervous systems are stuck in fight or flight. So I was like, man, let's hit this as a topic because let me tell you, the pharmaceutical route is nasty too. It's GABA like products, but it's Xanax and lorazepam and all these benzos,
Yep.
which are freaking
Benzos. Yep.
terrible. They're
They can
addicting.
be hard to get off. They can be
Yeah.
hard to get off. You start at a 0.25, zero point 0.5 milligram dose, and then you keep on ratcheting up, and then it's hard to come off it once you start getting really high.
Now, if you saw a vat of adaptogenic herbs that you and I have consumed in the last decade between us, it would be a
I
large
know.
vat of adaptogenic herbs. But that's what allows us to work hard with sick people
Yep.
and raise children and keep up with animals and wives and houses
Yep.
and all of that.
Yep.
And so for me, that's my first thing for someone. If I could take someone as a conventional American on the street going to drink alcohol tonight because they're stressed or overwhelmed, I'm going to say, hey, instead of reaching for that bottle, reach for the bottle of water or maybe some herbal tea like chamomile if you want. But then let's hit some adaptogens. Let's go for maybe some Relora. Let's hit passion flower. Let's hit rhodiola.
Yep.
Let's hit something that we can do to change the stress response. There's tons of studies, but today's more free flowing conversation. But if you type in
Yeah.
rhodiola stress, there's many studies done on this and how it literally alleviates the feeling of stress, meaning you and I can't magically make the stress and overwhelm disappear from someone's plate, but what we can do is provide their body nutrients so that their brain, their nervous system doesn't think that plate is as full as it really is. And that's the cool thing about these.
100%. So when I look at any type of stress, I always look at the foundational physiology. Because if you take someone's physiology and you throw it off kilter, like for instance, the easiest stressor to put someone under acutely is just don't sleep for a night. And then let me just kind of, you know, see you in the morning and list out all my problems and complaints and stressors that you have to then deal with. Well, you're going to have problems being able to take that information in and be able to execute. So we have to look at the foundational physiology. So the first thing is sleep. I mean, if you can just get 8 to 10 hours, 8 hours of sleep and get to bed on the other side of midnight, that sets your physiology up in regards to recycling your neurotransmitters, having a good, healthy cortisol awakening response, that circadian rhythm where cortisol is higher in the morning and lower at night. So then you have this inverse melatonin cortisol ratio where your cortisol drops at night, your melatonin goes up. And then, of course, making sure the food is nutrient dense, good proteins and fats at each meal, and we're not overdoing the carbs for what our body needs, and it's anti-inflammatory, and we're stabilizing that blood sugar because people forget one of the biggest stressors on our hormones is that blood sugar fluctuation throughout the day. The more dysglycemia we have, the more our blood sugar goes up and down like a roller coaster. We have to make stress hormones to bring it up and then insulin to bring it down, which then causes us to be in a fat storing mode. And so if we can manage our blood sugar, prevent these dysglycemic swings, we can make sure we have good proteins and fats, stay away from the junky processed fats, and we manage that blood sugar eating every maybe 5 hours or so and getting to bed on time. That sets the foundational physiology. And then we can come in there and biohack and add in other nutrients and stuffs as well.
Meaning, if you're a vegan living on date bars and drinking
Yeah.
yourself to sleep with wine,
Yeah.
you got to stop.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, again, like with alcohol, like every now and then is having a little bit of alcohol to kind of de-stress. Is it okay? Sure. Choose clean, organic alcohol. Do it after a meal. Maybe have some activated charcoal or some NAC. But that's like at the end. You really want to have the foundational food, the foundational nutrients. Again, if supplementally, the easiest things I'm going to add in, I like to stick to nutrients first. So I'm going to do magnesium. That's a very kind of sedating, calming, supporting nutrient and mineral. It's going to have 300 enzymatic roles in the body, anywhere from blood sugar to relaxation, to relaxing the heart, to vasodilation, to sleep. Very anti-inflammatory in the brain. So I love magnesium. You can even do it with a magnesium salt, Epsom salt foot bath, which is great too. If you have gut issues, that helps with the absorption. You could be doing theanine, which is an amino acid that helps upregulate and support healthy GABA levels. You can even add in pharma GABA, maybe a sublingual GABA tablet. That's excellent as well. So magnesium, GABA, theanine, these are excellent things out of the gate from a nutrient standpoint. Anything else nutritionally you want to highlight?
Well, I told you I was texting you over the weekend. I got hit with something. Luckily, I'm back in
Yeah.
action, but my resting heart rate was pretty fast. So my nervous system was just kind of boom, boom, pumping, responding to whatever type of sickness I
Hmm.
had. And so that kept me up. So I took some motherwort. As you know, motherwort's one of my favorite herbs because it's great for the heart. We use it for AFib, we use it for atrial flutter, any kind of like heart palpitation type symptoms. It's amazing at calming that, but it's great at calming emotional stress too. So if you're overwhelmed, if you're frazzled, if you're even getting to the point where you're like, I'm going to have a mental breakdown, I'm going to have a panic attack, somebody put me on some kind of drug. A lot of times, psychiatrists will prescribe antipsychotic medications, which are not the answer. They're not root cause at all. But motherwort can really calm you. So it's an emotional support
Yep.
and it's a heart nervous system support. And it's great if you wake up in the middle of the night and you can't get back to sleep. Take a little squirt, go lay back down. It's amazing. Doesn't taste
Yep.
great, but it works amazing. So I would rate that as more potent than something like theanine.
Yep. And then also ashwagandha I find to be very helpful as well. I'll take that before bed if I need. I'll typically do magnesium before bed. Ashwagandha can be really good, especially if you're stressed, because that's going to help modulate the high cortisol, but also can help bring up any of the low cortisol as well. So ashwagandha is excellent. You can easily combine that with the rhodiola too. Things like ginseng tend to be a little more stimulating, so things like ashwagandha are going to be great. And even phosphorylated serine. Serine can be very calming. What serine does, it sensitizes the receptor sites on the hypothalamus to cortisol. So there's this natural feedback loop of cortisol circulating in the body. It binds to receptor sites in the brain, and the brain's like, whoa, this is a little bit high. Let's kind of calm down that cortisol secretion. So it helps regulate that cortisol from getting too high. So phosphorylated serine is excellent. Phosphatidylserine is kind of one electron. It's one step in the enzymatic process backwards. So phosphorylated, it's better because it's a little bit more activated in an activated state. So that's excellent.
I mean, I've been looking at some papers on mold toxicity and melatonin. So mold actually does a couple things that's crazy. If you type in mycotoxins, dopamine, you can find papers saying that mycotoxins damage the part of the brain that makes dopamine. So then you're less likely to have energy and focus and concentration. So I'm sure that brain fog increases your stress and overwhelm because you feel like you're less capable of being a parent, being a boss,
Hmm.
whatever you got to do at work. So that's one impact of mycotoxins. And then also it's reducing melatonin. So I know when I was out of my house. We were staying in a hotel for like 6 weeks with the kids. It was crazy, but I didn't sleep. I mean, it took me 3 different hotel rooms to find one where I could sleep. And I'm assuming now it was a mycotoxin issue screwing up my sleep. I'm sure I was stressed too, being out of my house. I mean, that was years ago now, but I look back at that time and I go, oh my God, anytime I'm exposed to mold, like in a hotel, I just don't sleep. And then the research proves it. So my advice is if someone is dependent upon a medication, an herb, a supplement for sleeping, you are sleep deprived. That was the first thing you mentioned is the foundation. If you are sleep deprived and that's creating stress, well, what's your environment look like? Do you have good air purification? Do you have dehumidifiers? Do you have a mold problem? Do you have water leaks? Are you living in a moldy apartment, a condo, a townhome that's had water damage? Because if so, even the most perfect supplement protocol can't counteract that. So you may need to take steps to investigate your air quality, like some petri dishes, and maybe there's something there. Maybe when you get out of there, you sleep better. That's a good clue that you're onto something.
Yeah, the problem is most people they have issues and they take action, but they're still kind of anxious about what's going on. So it's really important. Action should help with the anxiety. Like the reason why anxiety is there from an evolutionary standpoint is to get you to take action to avoid. I don't know if there's someone got in that woods last month and they got eaten by a bear. Well, yeah, when you get near that woods, you should be anxious because your body's hardwired to make you more alert so you don't get eaten by that bear. So you have to understand where the anxiety is coming from. And as long as you're taking actions and you're closing the loop, so to speak, on what that anxiety is coming from, you should feel better about it. And so I always say, whatever the anxieties are, just try to have one or two solutions for each one of those. Then your brain knows, hey, I'm doing something about it. I can turn down that stress response because action is already being taken. So think about that as well. And then also, like you mentioned, hey, if I'm uncertain about my environment, let's get that mold test. If the mold test is positive, let's do at least one thing to make sure that environment gets better. Is there active leaks? Do I see water stains on the ceiling? Is there chronic high level of humidity? Let's work on that. If not, we can always just get in some good air filtration. We can work on fog in that area. Make sure there's no active leaks coming in. Then we're, getting a dehumidifier in there. We're taking active steps, so you shouldn't feel as anxious about that environment because you're starting to make it healthier.
And people say, what the heck are they talking about mold for on a podcast about stress and overwhelm? Well, here's the mechanism. Your immune system responds to the
Yep.
mold as a threat, and it is a
Yep.
subconscious threat, meaning you, Evan, or you, Justin, sitting here, you might think, okay, I'm not very stressed right now. Like I'm having a good time. This is great. But your nervous system subconsciously is running all these programs that are saying, hey, look, there's actually a toxin in this room I'm responding to. And so your amygdala, your fight or flight system, part of your limbic system, sends out an alert, danger, 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 and you may not even know it. So you could be sitting here on your couch anxious for no reason, and it's your limbic system. And many, many people report when they improve their air quality, they can settle down. So that's the mechanism I want people to understand. When you think overwhelm, you think just emotions in your head, but no, these external factors, these external toxins and variables can impact you. I mean, what about a bad neighbor? What about every time you see your neighbor's car pull up, you're like, oh my God, there's John again. And John stresses you out every time he pulls in the driveway because you guys got in an argument. So you have to integrate some form of, I would say, trauma release into all of this too. So you and I are big fans of tapping. So I would say
Yep.
if you're catching yourself in these loops, you mentioned closing the loop, which I think is smart. But
Yep.
if you're stuck in a loop, well, maybe you could integrate some tapping to pull you out of that. So tapping is basically acupuncture, but without the needles. You tap these
Yep.
points and then you say an affirmation. You and I've done that many, many times on here.
I think it's very good. Kind of helps calm down the nervous system response. There's different programs out there. I'll put some links down below. Like there's DNRS or the Gupta program. These are excellent programs that involve visualization, maybe some aspects of NLP, where you really work on controlling the thoughts and the images in your brain. Whether you do tapping or eye movement, like EMDR, eye movements, desensitization response techniques. These things help calm down that fight or flight response, and then you kind of allow you to be using more of your frontal brain, because the data is when you're in this chronic stressed out state, the amygdala, right, that forebrain, or that hindbrain, is kind of more active. That's the prehistoric brain that's involved in fight, flight, and that fear response. And so most people are all working from this reptilian brain versus that frontal cortex that involves thinking and looking at your options and coming up with solutions and problem solving and predicting outcomes based on where you're at, right? We need that frontal brain. But if we're using our reptilian brain, right, then that's going to be activated with a lot of these stressors. And so one study right here I'm looking at, I'll pull it up here and we can talk about it. I think that kind of supports what you're saying regarding mold and this fight or flight response being a big deal. So this one study here was looking at mold inhalation causes an innate immune activation, neural, cognitive, and emotional dysfunction. And they were talking about intranasally administering different, this is black mold, Stachybotrys. And they were looking at, innate immune activation, toxic mold, and how it affects your emotions. And of course, it's going to impact inflammation. It's going to cause joint pain. It's going to cause sleep issues. You mentioned earlier, it also has a major effect on dopamine. Can you highlight that again?
Yeah, do a control F. Is dopamine in that paper? It might be a different paper. See if you can find it.
Yeah, here you go. So exposing Drosophila to zero point 0.5 part per million of this chemical caused significant loss of dopamine neurons. So decreased dopamine levels and initiated onset of Parkinson's, suggesting that exposure to mold produces the chemical that may be another environmental risk factor for Parkinson's disease. So dopamine is really important for feeling good, for focusing, for dealing with stress. It's that neurotransmitter that gives you that kind of connection that makes you feel love. So really, really important. And it talks about
Yeah.
long-term inflammation following mold exposure and autoimmune changes in the brain. See, that's powerful.
Yeah,
That's
this
really
is
important.
huge. Trying to get Dale Bredesen on the podcast. He wrote a book
Oh
called The
yeah.
End of Alzheimer's, and now he's really
Yeah.
hitting the mold angle as an Alzheimer's link. I think it's a huge piece of the puzzle, that and heavy
Yeah.
metals. But many people may hear this and they may just glaze over what we're saying. We're literally saying that your environment could be contributing to a neurodegenerative disease where your neurologist is not going to have a clue. They're not going to be testing you for this stuff. They're not going to ask you about your water leak under your kitchen sink. They're not going to be running mycotoxins in the urine. They're not going to look at a Great Plains organic acids test. So, in terms
Right.
of, we'll talk about testing in a second, but I think we should describe to people, how do you know if you're in a state of overwhelm, because many people are so used to living in fight or flight that they don't really know how to downshift. So maybe we should go through symptoms. I will say inability to make decisions or analysis paralysis. Like if you're struggling just to decide what to make for dinner, or you're struggling just to decide what to do tomorrow, that's a huge problem. You can't comprehend simple decision making. I would say loss of libido, loss of energy, motivation, sleep disturbance,
Hmm.
maybe some
Yep.
sugar cravings, brain fog, anxiety. I would say distractibility or escapism, meaning you're always jumping from like social media app to social media app. Like you just don't want to live in your reality because you're in a state of overwhelm. That's like escapism. What else would you add to the list? Like,
Well, I would say it just depends where someone's at, right? If someone's going into an acute exposure, an acute stressor, and they have a good foundation, that's good because a good foundation, allows you to deal with and adapt to stress. So I always look at it's always good to model healthy people. So you work on the water, you work on the food, the blood sugar, the good fats, the good proteins, the sleep before midnight, getting enough movement so you feel energized but not tired. That's a foundation. And then if a stressor comes into your world, like mold, right? In this study, they talk about not just mold, but pesticide exposure, smoking, right? So basically, I'm looking at air and living quality. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just cross things off my list. I'm going to get a mold test for my house, whether it's a plate test or an ERMI test. I'm going to make sure I have a good quality air filtration because even if my home has no mold, you're going to still have some off gassing from furniture or paint or carpet or hardwoods or professional grade vinyl. There's something in your air that's going to be more stressful. And so you want to make sure you have a good quality air filter, whether it's an Austin Air or an Air Doctor. You're going to want to make sure your water is filtered and clean. And then you want to make sure if you're in a humid environment, get a dehumidifier for your home to keep the humidity below 50%. I think that's really key out of the gate.
yeah, yeah. What other symptoms do you think somebody would experience if they were in a state of overwhelm?
Well, it depends. I mean, chronic overwhelm can just happen by having a lot of open loops on someone's plate, a lot of stressors that are in your environment, emotional stressors, and you're not taking action on them. And now you have two, three, four, five. And so your body is going to cause you to get really anxious, really stressed, and really overwhelmed because you're not closing the loops. And so I just look at what are the top three things that are stressing you out from an emotional stress thing you haven't taken action on. Just pull out your phone or a paper and just write down what they are and write down A and B options for each one and then say, okay, good, I got them down and I'm going to execute it when the time's right, but I can at least put that to bed. And so that's a really important thing. It's kind of like just trying to think of one situation. We had a mold issue in my home, and it was like, okay, took action on it, got the remediation person out, got the air filtration, did it the right way, did it in a negative air containment, make sure we tested. Like I took action, but when I knew this problem, this environmental stressor was there, it was stressing me out because of all the unknown, right? And so I just said, I'm going to take action. I'm going to handle it the best way possible. I'm going to make sure we test. I'm going to make sure we clean it out. And I felt a lot better about it. But the more you leave these things open, it just kind of gnaws at you quite a bit.
Yeah. I mean, this applies to debt too, right? Like people have
Oh yeah.
a bill here, a medical debt here, a debt here on the car, and then the car's going back. Like, so those things, you got to try to chip away at those too. I mean, this isn't a financial podcast, but I would tell people try to knock out your smallest debts, because if you've got like this bill and this card and that debt, like that really weighs you down emotionally. And I see it all the time with people. It's a huge piece of the stress. So like if you've got a credit card, let's say you've got an Amazon or a Target credit card with $500, like knock that one out first and then go to your $5,000 one. Like you have to chip away at these
Yeah.
things.
Yeah, I mean, I think biggest thing out of the gate. I mean, you can look at some of the Dave Ramsey stuff on that, but if you use a credit card or not, like I use credit cards because I get 2% back on everything, right? So it's like, okay, I'm going to get paid 2% for using it. Sure, I'll use it. The difference is I pay my credit card off every day, and the reason why I do that is running a business and doing all these things. There's lots of expenses, and one, if I have hundreds of transactions at the end of the week, what if there's fraud? What if there's issues? At least I can see it every day, and then I can also monitor it. I can have my pulse on where money's going in and out. And so it makes me feel on top of it. And I would say just from a stress standpoint, financially, 3 to 6 months of living expenses, I think is a good one to have in savings at all times. So any issues happen, you have that to lean back on. Too many people, I think, don't have that 3 to 6 month buffer. And I think that can be a big stressful thing that's just kind of in the background for sure.
Yeah. So even some of, I think it was Shaq or someone I saw recently in an interview, some extremely high level millionaire was saying that every day they still look at the numbers. They still check their numbers, the bills, where the money's going, where the credit is, where the debt is. They still look at it, even though they could buy anything in the world, they still take a look. So if you're just
Oh,
out of
yeah.
the loop on that, it's a big problem.
And with phone apps, you can jump on it and you can finalize it, look at it in about 1 or 2 minutes. The more you kind of have your pulse on things, the better. I think that's really good. And then you could talk about all the inflation that's happening. That's a whole different strategy in regards to investment and such like that. That we do a lot of things on the investing side as well. But I think the biggest thing is have that 3 to 6 months and just be on top of income coming in and expenses going out, so you have your pulse on it. That allows you
Yeah.
to pivot and make changes.
Yep. So that's the financial piece. Try to get that buffer. The environmental piece. Try to have a good, clean oasis where you can properly sleep. Your nervous system can calm down.
Yeah, I
Try to
think a
rotate.
couple of good air filters, get your home tested. Even if you just get a couple of the plates and you just wait 5 or 7 days and count the spores and make sure the spores are under five or so, that's fine. You can avoid sending it to the lab. If it's more than five, then we definitely want to send it to the lab. Take a look at your ceilings, go walk around, make sure you don't see any spots on your ceiling. Go hire someone to come out once a year and just do a roof inspection. Just make sure your roof looks good. Go take a peek in your attic, right? Get a moisture meter and just kind of test the walls out a little bit and make sure everything looks good there. Those are all good, simple things you can do out of the gates.
Keep the exhaust fan on if you're going to take a hot shower. I've seen many, many people
Yep.
have issues with that just because that hot steam, 20 minute or however long shower you're taking, all that steam's got to go somewhere. So if you're not sucking it out with an exhaust fan, it's going to have to soak into that drywall. So that paper backing on that drywall can get real moist. We see that as a huge
Yep.
problem area.
Yeah, or even just get a dehumidifier for your bathroom, even just a portable one. That's a big one. If you don't have an exhaust fan, just get a portable dehumidifier and just keep it on to at least pull that moisture out of the air. I think that's important.
Yep, absolutely.
And
And
then
then
I would say massage, get body work done, whether it's chiropractic, that very calming on your nervous system, having your spine adjusted. That's where your central nervous system flows from your brain down the spine, making sure your spine and your vertebrae are moving. Make sure soft tissue is doing well. There's good pliability in that soft tissue, making sure that fascia is being manipulated, myofascial release, different things to help that fascia and that connective tissue stay soft and supple like a tenderloin versus hard and inflamed like beef jerky. Chiropractic, I think, is powerful as well, just to make sure all the joints in your hips are moving, upper cervical spine. Really important that that's all kind of dialed in as well. Oh, these are all really important things that can calm down that nervous system and inhibit the IML, the intermedial. I think it's the intermedial cell column that kind of stimulates that fight or flight nervous system.
turn your screen share off. That way I can see your
Oh
face
yeah,
bigger.
yeah. We'll kill that here.
Yeah, the massage is huge. I went to get a massage a couple weeks ago, and the lady's like, "Yeah, we're all fragrance free." And I go in there, and my God, I left smelling like a dryer sheet. Like my wife was ready to kick me out of the car on the way home. She's like, "You reek." And so I guess their sheets at the massage studio just had dryer sheets on them or something. So that was a stressor for me because here I am going to do something good, like calm my system, and then I leave smelling like a dryer sheet. So double
The
check,
best
call
things
ahead.
The best thing you can do, and I told you about it too, the best thing you can do, it's the cheapest thing, get wash soda, which is basically baking soda for your washing machine. And then what you do is you do your wash, but then you put like a 30-minute soak on there or a 1 hour soak. You can do 30 minutes, right? Put a cup of the wash soda in there. Do your, it'll sit for 30 minutes. The baking soda absorbs any smell, any stink. I had a Lululemon shirt that was moldy. It was so bad because it got washed and then it sat there for a couple of days and it got moldy in the washer. I couldn't get it out. I washed it like a dozen times. My mom comes into town. She's like, "Oh, here, it's Italian trick here," and she will put the Arm and Hammer in there, do an hour soak, and it literally killed it and it smelled brand new. And I'd washed it dozens of times with all these essential oils and anti-mold shampoos. Couldn't touch the smell. So wash soda, especially if you're sensitive, use that to suck all the smell out of what's in your detergent or anything else. And I'll use just like the free and clear, no sense. I'm like Evan. I'm very, very sensitive to smell. It's really very disruptive for me.
Man, it was my skin though. My skin reeked. I had to take like 2, 3 showers. I still smell. Maybe I should
Oh,
like
dude.
scrub myself with baking soda. It was like
It's the
impregnated into my
dude.
skin, man.
I don't know what it is, but there's like I think it's like, I'm not sure if it's younger women today, but it's like my parents' generation, that group wore, at least the females, a lot of perfume. Like you could like literally be 15 feet away from someone and you could smell their perfume. It's definitely changed. Like my wife's generation, right? women in their 30s and 40s, there's a less perfume smell. I think people are using more essential oils and natural things. But it's funny how generations change how much perfume to less to more. But I'm super sensitive to the perfumes. We try to keep zero in our home. And if we do anything, it's like an essential oil or like a lavender or like a little bit of like cedar or kind of rose, those kind of things. Keep it simple.
We could hit the smells for a minute too. That is a stress to the system
It
too.
is. It's a big stressor.
Yeah, especially if you're burning it. So like candles, throw them away if they're not essential oil based. It's just garbage. Get rid
Dryer
of them.
sheets, throw dryer sheets away. If you
Yeah.
want to get the benefit of dryer sheets, you can get one of those static balls. Just put it in there. It's like a little ball that knocks the static down. That's the purpose of dryer sheets mostly, right? But then you don't have all that scent and smell. So that's a good way to kind of mitigate the stress from that.
Yeah, we hit the blood sugar, the sleep, the environment,
Sleep,
the
these
fragrances,
smells.
the finances. I mean, those are a lot of pieces of overwhelm,
Yeah.
really. What else are we missing?
Yeah. I mean, I just think, close those loops. Look at what's on your plate for stressors. What's bugging you out? What pops into your head? Be on top of that. Also, monitor that self-talk. Most people, if you look at how you talk to yourself, that inner voice, right behind your head that you hear, most people would not be friends with a person that spoke the same way as their inner voice. So make sure you really upgrade the quality of your inner voice. Have that inner voice really give you guidance, intuition, but also don't beat yourself up. I think it's super important. There was an old Anthony Robbins quote that was really important as well. It's like, you're going to do so many things right in a day, so many things you're going to do right and well. And you got to give yourself a pat in the back. Because if you're not watching yourself succeeding and then giving yourself that congratulations or that pat in the back, and you're looking for your kids or your spouse or your friend to do it all the time, they're not going to see enough of it. So really make sure you're catching yourself doing a lot of the good things and pat yourself on the back for it. And, take your wins whenever you can. Take your wins.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. The rumination, right? This negative self-talk, ruminating about your problems, thinking about your past, the things you did wrong, living with regret, those are big problems. So someone told me years ago,
Hold on. I want to hit that. That's
yeah,
really important. So the rumination, I find serotonin
yeah.
and N-acetylcysteine plays major, major role. That sulfur and serotonin, for me, I used to be a little more OCD and ruminating, and getting my NAC up and getting my serotonin levels up, 5-HTP and B6, really helped rumination. It allowed me to kind of like, okay, that's the issue, and then allowed me to disconnect from it and then just kind of focus on what the next thing is and not have to be playing the loop on repeat all the time, which is very stressful.
Oh yeah,
Go
it's
ahead.
huge. So people don't understand that. They think once again negative self-talk, they think rumination, they think we're talking about these emotional things, but no, we're actually talking biochemistry, we're talking neurotransmitters also. So what I was going to say is someone told me years ago, if you want to get out of your head to get into your body. So that's what I do a lot of. If the weather's decent enough, I'm out there on the mountain bike, I'm out in the woods, I'm hiking, I'm biking, I'm moving, I'm on the water, I'm doing something to get out of the head by getting in my body. So do that. And then the testing, let's talk about that because you brought up serotonin.
Oh, and
If you're
then
overwhelmed.
go ahead, go ahead, hit that part. One
Okay,
more
okay.
thing that you brought up, I want to hit it too.
Okay, don't forget. So if you're overwhelmed, I would say do the following. Get the oat test, urine done at home. You can order it through our office. If you need help, reach out Dr. J at
Yep,
justinhealth.com or Evan Brand at evanbrand.com. Let us help you order these at-home functional medicine labs so we can investigate the cause of this overwhelm, because there could be
bingo.
internal toxins, there could be pesticides, mycotoxins, bacterial overgrowth, parasites, worms, H. pylori, gut inflammation, brain inflammation, low neurotransmitters, nutrient deficiencies, all combining to create these emotional issues. So get the oat. We may want to look at stool. We may want to look at chemicals, but reach out and then we can help you develop a plan to figure this out.
Really important. One last thing I wanted to highlight too is appreciation, because most of the time when you're in overwhelmed, you're thinking about what's missing in your life, or you're thinking about this problem that you have to address, and you're like, what do I have time to do this? Or you're thinking about this expense, that you're thinking about things that you're missing, or things that you have to expend or you have to lose. But when you appreciate, you're focusing on all the things that you have, and you're really trying to create context for that and really feeling that sense of gratitude and appreciation. And appreciate, essentially, it's like if your finances appreciate, if your investments appreciate, they get greater, they get bigger. So you're taking everything in your life and you're feeling that sense of gratitude, making everything bigger in your life in regards to how you feel about it and how appreciative you are. And having perspective of, if you live in the United States, like you're a 1%er just living in the United States, right? I mean, I think it's if you make $19,000 a year, right, which is poverty in this country, you're 1% in the world. It's like, whoa, that's perspective, right? Perspective also gives you appreciation.
Yeah,
It's really
I mean,
helpful.
I kinda have dark humor with my grandparents, like, my grandma called me the other day, apparently my grandpa hit a curb and busted a tire, they were
Oh,
without their car, then the
yeah,
tire's on back order, nobody has that size in stock, and I was
yeah.
like, "Well, it's better than being dead," and she's like, you're right, I'm gonna enjoy this is fine, we're gonna get a rental car, it's no problem," and so, I just tell her all the time, if there's a complaint, like, "At least you're not dead," because her relatives have disappeared and she's one of the last women standing of that generation, from the 40s. So I'm like, grandma, like, enjoy it, you're alive, this is
Yeah.
amazing. And usually it kind of snaps her out of the funk.
Yeah, appreciation is important, right? Because usually you're just focused on all the things that are going wrong and you're just flipping that switch. And if you look at NLP and kind of the work of Richard Bandler, he's a really interesting guy, but he would always take a look at successful people and he talked to them. He'd want to know what's the image in your head when you're in this peak state and you're succeeding and you're doing well. What are the images in your brain look like at the time? Meaning, like, what are you thinking of? What's the picture reel in your brain look like when you're achieving and doing these things? And almost always it's in the positive. Almost always it's showing and visualizing the outcome, and you're already seeing it happen multiple times already before you actually do it. And versus it's the negative, it's the worst case scenario. So really be aware of the picture screen on your in your brain. Almost like go within, pretend like you're in a movie theater and you're literally seeing the picture screen, which is what you're seeing through your eyes, and then you're really changing that screen like you're the director directing that movie screen while you're seeing it in the movie theater through your eyes, so to speak. Does that make sense?
It does to me
Yeah.
because I do it all the time. I'm always trying to
Yeah.
visualize the outcome. This has already happened. The person I want to say yes already said yes. What I needed, it's already here. Even though I don't have it yet, I've already got it, and that goes a long way.
And then also pretend like if you're there in that movie theater inside your brain, remember you have control over that. If it's in a bad space and you're just all negative and you're just looking at everything the wrong way, you can just put a new movie in, right? You're not a victim. You're not sitting there chained down like Clockwork Orange, right? Where they peel the guy's eyes open, right? It's like you have control over what you're watching. So put a different film in there.
Yeah. Last
It's really
thing I would
important.
say, just take a nap. Like if you're just so overwhelmed, the middle of the day hits, you've got fatigue. That can also be overwhelming because you're so tired. You have so many obligations you're trying to do, but you're so fatigued. Number one, get the labs run so we could figure out why you're so damn
Yep.
tired on paper. We'll
Get
also
your
look at,
adrenals looked at.
yeah.
See how stressed out they are. Do you have that chronic low DHEA? Are your neurotransmitters VMA, HVA, 5-hydroxyindoletate? Are they all depleted and down? Because this could take a while to get this thing repleted.
Yep. So if you're feeling that, get the data. And then if you got to close your eyes for a minute, close your eyes. Lay there and take a nap if you can do it. If your lifestyle allows you, take a nap, escape from the kids, whatever you got to do, do it. And hopefully you'll come back a little more refreshed, a little more in control when you're not so exhausted.
And when your neurochemistry is depleted, it's really hard to willpower that. And so
Yeah.
sometimes you have to get the food and the supplements on track. And then it's like, then the willpower and then the energy and then the ability to now start doing the things you need to do, it starts to become easier. There's less resistance. You get this downhill kind of momentum. So that's very important. And again, looking at the adrenals, looking at the neurotransmitters, looking at your DHEA sulfate, looking at your circadian rhythm, right? That circadian rhythm should go up in the morning and down at night. And the more dysregulated that is, if it's reversed or flat, that tells me that stress feedback loop is disrupted, and you're probably using that amygdala and that brain stem. You're operating more from that fight or flight state all the time.
Yep, that makes sense. If you need help, reach out. You can reach Dr. J at justinhealth.com.
Yep.
Worldwide consults, meaning labs can be sent to your door wherever you are. You get the results, look at them, make a protocol, get yourself better. So, justinhealth.com for Dr. J, myself, evanbrand.com. We look forward to helping you guys. And hopefully, this content was helpful. Share it with your friends, your family. If we can get somebody else out of the hole, that's what we love. I mean, it just takes one person that could totally transform your life. If this is your husband, you're trying to get out of overwhelm, your wife, have them listen to this so we can help lift them up because it's going to make your life way better.
Yeah, just pick one thing. If you're overwhelmed already and you're like, crap, I just said 15 things, just pick one. Like, what's the easiest thing that you can do? And then once you get some momentum, then we're going to go to two, and then we're going to go to three. So just start kind of stacking and get that momentum. And then you get that downward momentum going, and it starts to be easier to add new modalities to the mix.
Yep. Amen.
Excellent. All right, man. Great chatting with you, Evan, and I hope everyone listening enjoyed it. Feel free to share with friends or family. We'll put a link down below where you can review us. We really appreciate a review on both our iTunes channels. Super helpful, gets the word out there. And you guys have a phenomenal day. Take care, y'all.